This morning we're here at the Palm Springs Air Museum. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson along with Bill Gaudreau here, and we're going to interview Paul Torian. Paul is really a special guy, mainly because he's from my hometown, Evansville, Indiana. And so, but in addition to that, he was in the Marine Corps during World War II, fought in the Pacific. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Paul, nice to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Okay, so tell me again, when and where were you born?
Born in Evansville, Indiana, 1920. November 1920. I'm 81 years old.
November the what?
November 29.
Okay. And you were talking a little bit about your background, Torian. What were you telling me again about where that might have came from?
Well, we're not sure, but it's been traced back to a little pocket between Switzerland, France, and Italy. And I don't know. We think it's Swiss, but it might have originally been Toriano, and it dropped the O. So we don't know. Of course, IAN, you usually think, well, that guy's an Armenian, but I don't believe I'm an Armenian.
Yeah. And Bill, you were saying when they came into Ellis Island, what would they do?
Well, they relied a lot on the pronunciation of the or if they didn't actually hear the word, they would look at it, and not being familiar with that particular language, they would just quickly write it down. And then, of course, a lot of the immigrants were themselves illiterate.
Okay, and what did your dad do, Paul?
Insurance, property and casualty insurance, and then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went business.
And was your dad born in Evansville? What did your relatives? I mean.
Yeah, he was born and raised there, and my grandpa was, and they came up through Kentucky and settled in Evansville. And I went business with my dad. Stayed in that business till I retired about 12 years ago.
And Evansville's on the Ohio River in the southwest corner, just across the street, across the river from Kentucky. So most of our ancestors came, and all mine did, pretty much up through Kentucky or from Ohio. And
people think we talk like Kentuckians. Of course, we don't.
Of course not.
Oh.
If you go across the river, you can really tell it.
Yeah, sure can.
It's funny. I was out here, at least 20 years, I guess. I kind of moved around after I left Evansville. One day I was talking to my mom on the phone. Oh, I said, my gosh, my mom has an accent.
That's right.
Yeah. First time I realized that she sounded differently than I thought. And what was your mom's maiden name?
Tewksbury, Tewksbury. It's my middle name. She's obviously, her family's very English.
Yes.
And
what was her first name?
Catherine.
And had her family been in Evansville for a long time?
No, they were from Boston, Massachusetts, and my father went to Cornell. My mother went to Wellesley, and they met back there.
Oh.
And that's probably the main reason I went to Dartmouth, which is Ivy League school, New Hampshire, because of that Eastern background my mother and father had.
Where did they go to high school in Evansville? The only one, right?
Oh, the only one.
Central. Right.
That's where I went.
That's where my parents went. Did you? Yeah. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
One brother who now lives in Rancho Santa Fe, California.
Was he older or younger? What was
younger.
His name? What was his name?
3.5 years younger.
What was his first name?
Jim.
Jim.
He went to Central also.
What was your dad's first name?
Garnett, Garnett.
And your mom's first name?
She was Catherine.
Oh, you said Catherine, right? Yeah. Now your grandparents, or your grandfather, what did he do, or what did your grandparents do?
Well, they were in the wholesale clothing business, and they office down there on Northwest First Street, which you remember well, Dave, and they covered an area of about a radius about 100 miles and sold hats and sweaters and that kind of
And where was your home? Or where did your house?
709 Southeast First Street, downtown.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit here, but tell us about the 1937 flood, if you recall it.
I left my house in a rowboat. We went, my brother and I were, my dad stayed. My brother and I, they sent my brother and sent us out of there in a rowboat. We went down to the train station, caught the CNEI, went to Indianapolis, and stayed with a minister up there for about a week. But we had a lot of water.
The reason it's First Street, it's like the first or second street right from the river.
Yeah.
So how many feet of water would you say was in the streets?
Well,
enough to float a rowboat, obviously.
there were some houses. Ours was built up a little bit, but there were some houses. There was one house I know of very well on Southeast 2nd Street that had water on the second floor that had never had it on the first floor. So that was the 1937 flood. That was a big boy.
It was. Yeah. So did you have a lot of damage at your house?
Basement only.
Did you have any? Do you have any photographs of the flood, or your dad's pictures?
No, not really, Dave. Back then, I don't think the people weren't as conscious of it.
I have some books from my mom gave me about Evansville, and I've got some pictures. So we'll put that into your story, because that was really a happening.
Yeah, good.
So, so what grade school did you go to then?
Wheeler. That's now a parking lot for Welborn Hospital.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Welborn's been bought by St. Mary's, but it's hospital parking lot.
Yeah. And what did you and your brother do for entertainment and stuff like that? Play a lot of sports? Or?
Well, we didn't do anything very exciting, because back then, my father was tough. Really tough, and not comfortable enough to get by satisfactorily financially, but not comfortable enough and or generous enough to be frivolous with us. I remember when I had my allowance, when I was in high school, junior in high school, $1.50 a week, and lunch cost a quarter. And I said, Dad, that's 5 lunches, that takes $1.25. He said, that gives you 25 cents left over. I didn't think that was very much, but
yeah. Of course, you're talking about growing up during the Depression.
right.
And some people had a lot worse off, I suppose, than you guys did.
Oh yeah, yes. I say we were comfortable. My father
He
was
was
very conservative.
Able to work the whole time?
Yeah.
What did your father do for work?
Well, he was in insurance business, and
How did he get into that? Well, he went to college.
he went to Cornell, studied architecture.
And your grandfather, what did he do?
My grandfather was a wholesale clothing business, and my father was an architect in the East, and he came back to Evansville because his brother had passed away, and my grandfather wanted his son back, so he came back and originally went in the clothing business with him, but then broke off and started insurance agency.
Were there many insurance agencies around in those days? I mean, they're all over the place now, but
Dave, probably not, but seems as if now there are a lot of them.
Yeah. What was the name? What agent did he start his own? Or
Torian, yeah.
Did you ever go swimming in the river in Ohio?
Or
boating or anything?
I never did. I can remember when some of the crazy guys in my class, when the river froze, walked across it in the winter. You probably remember that too.
Well, I remember my dad talking about it. Yeah.
I wasn't.
I mean, the river it's what, about half a mile wide at least?
About right there in Evansville. Yeah, it'd be
It's
a half to 3/4.
Yeah, and it was frozen all the way across.
I'm not from that part of the country. What river was that?
The Ohio
That's
River.
Ohio.
Yeah, next to the Mississippi is
Yeah.
probably the biggest one. And in some places it's
Yeah.
bigger than the Mississippi, I think. Yeah.
I wasn't tough enough to walk across that river because it was chunks of ice. You know, it wasn't a smooth surface. Chunks that had washed down and then they frozen, and it was tough track.
Did you play any sports at Central?
Well, not much. Actually, not too much. I played a little basketball at Dartmouth. Rode the bench, but I'd get in once in a while. Our Dartmouth back then had pretty good teams, and I was about 11th or 12th man. And I remember I got in against Yale one time and scored 11 points because the only reason I did was because our coach was a very good friend of Red Rolfe, who was coach of Yale, and he didn't want to. Our coach didn't want to run up the score on him, so he went very deep down the bench.
Yeah. Did you play some at Central too then?
No, I didn't.
I remember. Do you remember Lee Hamilton?
Very well.
Okay.
Very well.
When I was born in 1939, so like when I was in grade school, because my mom and dad had gone to Central, so I followed their basketball team, and and they had he and Gene Southworth and Joe Switz, I think, and some guys. This was around 46, 47,
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh, that was a tough team.
And they were really good. And they went. They played Terre Haute Garfield in like the semi-state, I believe. And Hamilton had hurt his knee in the afternoon game. In Indiana, I don't know if they still do that. And then they have the afternoon game, and if you win that, then you play that night. So you got 2 games in one day. But Garfield had this guy named Clyde Lavelle, like 7 feet tall, and they went to Kansas.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was listening to that game, and I just was just seething because I think it wasn't fair that they have to have somebody that tall playing against Central. Of course, they beat Central,
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize was a few years ago I was watching C-SPAN or something, and Lee Hamilton is a representative from Evansville in the Congress,
That's right.
and I put that together. Well, that's the same
Yeah,
guy.
for a number of years.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know him personally?
No, I don't. He was his father was a minister at he was the minister at Trinity ME, which is the big downtown Methodist church. It's on 3rd Street, just about 2 blocks south of Main. Big church. And he was the minister there, and very considered very fine man. And Lee Hamilton, of course, strong, fine human being.
Yeah. When did you graduate from high school?
38.
38. Then you went back to Dartmouth.
Right.
And what were you majoring in back then?
Economics.
Dartmouth is, where is Dartmouth?
It's in New Hampshire, Hanover, New Hampshire. It's an Ivy League school, and
The Big Green.
the Big Green, right? And nowadays, very difficult to get into. Back then, if your father had tuition, they'd figure out a way to get you in. And coming right from Central High School, my education was very average. My fault, but I was not well prepared for Dartmouth College.
So was it tough for you initially?
Very, and typically though, back then anyway, the high school boys were way behind the prep school boys freshman year, sophomore. By sophomore or junior year, they're starting to catch up because if you come from a high school, you have to work a lot harder. Prep school boys, it's easy for them. And by the time you're seniors, high school kids have passed the prep school. And by the time I was a senior, I didn't think it was so tough, but I thought it was awfully difficult first couple of years.
When did you get your first automobile? What did you drive? What was that you drove first?
I guess my first one, my first one was Plymouth when I got back from overseas. That would have been 1940.
traveled around. You probably did.
Yeah. We
What-
family always had 2 cars, but I never had one.
Did you get to drive the family?
Oh yeah, you let me drive.
What kind of car was that?
Well, I drove he had a Mercury and a Ford. Of course, one of his big accounts was the Ford dealer, and that dictated what kind of cars we had.
Do you remember what you were doing on December 7th, 1941?
Sure do. Very well. December 7, 1941, I'm in the library, Baker Library at Dartmouth College, and somebody passed the word around, did you hear what happened? The Japs have attacked Pearl Harbor. We couldn't believe it. Of course, that was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The attack happened, of course, 6, 7 in the morning. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon up there. I have vivid recollection of that time.
Were you, you say you were you surprised just that they attacked Pearl Harbor, or were you actually surprised that we were going to be in a war, or could you see something coming, or?
I think back then we kind of felt, I think you just felt, oh, war is coming. I don't think we expected from the Japs, but we just thought the Germans, we're going to be in this war sometime, and the Germans had overrun, they overrun half Europe by that time, and we just felt it's coming, but the Japanese attack was really a surprise.
Were you in a fraternity at Dartmouth?
Mm-hmm.
What were you?
Phi Psi, Phi Kappa Psi. Yeah, we had
all fraternities have they're a little bit unique in some ways. Some are more academic, some are more athletic, this, that. Where did yours fit in?
Ours was, I would say, was well-rounded. And I was living off campus then, 5 of us living off campus, and the Phi Psis at Dartmouth, we pledged sophomore year rather than freshman year, which incidentally is good.
Yeah, I think so.
And we're living off campus. There were 6 of us. I had 5 roommates. And the Phi Psis, we decided we're all going to the same fraternity. And the Betas, I thought I want to be a Beta, but the Betas didn't want Donovan. And somebody else maybe didn't want Dewey. And maybe some other fraternity didn't want Torian. Phi Psi said, we'll take all 6 of you guys, and not only that, we'll build our delegation around you. And we had in our fraternity, so we got to actually do a lot of our recruiting. And we had at the Senior Honorary Society, Paleoptists, 15 members. We had 6 Phi Psis. 6 in my pledge class were Paleoptists. 6 out of 15, which is pretty much. It's just honorary, senior honorary society.
Oh, yeah.
So we felt, looking back on it, I felt pretty good. I thought the Phi Psis were very smart to take all 6 of us.
Yeah. So after December 7th, you continued on with your schooling, or what?
No, I had been in. I was in the Marine Corps at that time. I was in the reserves because I had summer training. I'd signed up. The Marine Corps had a summer training program. They called it 2 Leaders Class. It's like ROTC, where you go 8 weeks summer after your sophomore year, 8 weeks in the summer after your junior year, and then on graduation from college, you go to basic school, officer training, 90 or 100 days, and then you become an officer. So I'd had those 2 summers.
What prompted you to join that? When was that, like 38, 39?
Yeah, we signed up in the spring of 1940.
Was that
39.
Was that all your buddies?
Yeah, my buddies.
I did that, yeah.
We just, we knew war was coming, so we know we're going to be in it, and I don't know, we decided, somebody said, well, let's join the Marines. Yeah, that sounded like a good idea to me. And, but I got my orders. I was home Christmas vacation, December course, the attack was December 7. I'm home Christmas vacation. I'm sawing wood upstairs, and my mother comes up. It's 9 o'clock in the morning with a telegram. Son, you've been, look at this. You called to active duty. So, called to active duty to report Philadelphia Navy Yard January 10th. And of course, I contacted Dartmouth, and there were those of us in this PLC program. We all went back to college, and they gave us hurry-up finals and comprehensive. So we graduated. I went 3.5 years to Dartmouth, but I graduated, reported to Philadelphia Navy Yard January 10th, and 100 days later, I'm a second lieutenant, and I wouldn't even drive behind the ears, but I'm ready to go.
So where did you go then?
Well, then went to Camp Lejeune.
I spent 2 years at Camp Lejeune.
Did you?
I was a dental officer. 2 years, as soon as I got out of dental school, I was there 64 to 66.
Oh, is that?
Camp Lejeune, they call it.
Yeah, right. It's down in North Carolina. And
Jacksonville.
It's hot there, and I went down there. I'll never forget taking over my first platoon.
Now, did you go through basic training before that, like Paris Island or a place somewhere?
Well, Philadelphia Navy Yard.
Oh, okay, so that's where you had.
Yeah, and then we went to Camp Lejeune, and I was assigned to a platoon, and I remember, I'll never forget my gunnery sergeant. Boy, was I glad to have him there. I mean, he was so tough. I mean, and we had this platoon, and of course, those guys were tough too. There weren't many candies in there. They tough guys, but here I am. I'm a kid, and
so they had all been through basic too. Your platoon.
Well, yeah, they'd been through boot camp.
Boot
yeah,
camp, that's what I mean.
They'd been through boot camp, and of course, I'd come through officers training, so a little bit different. But this platoon sergeant I had became a very, very dear friend, and our paths crossed.
What was his name?
He was an Alabama farmer. His name was Aubrey, A-U-B-R-E-Y, Edmonds, E-D-M-O-N-D-S. And Aubrey was matter of fact, he got shot up pretty bad on Tarawa, and he was back here, back in the States when I came back. And he introduced me to the lady who's now my wife.
Oh.
So I appreciated his friendship right from the start.
Well, tell us how he introduced you to your wife.
Well, he'd been back here, and he was at Camp Pendleton, and of course I came back. When I came back, I was sent to Camp Pendleton, and Aubrey had been going with a girl in Los Angeles, and that girl's father thought that Aubrey was pretty old for his little daughter, and he kind of liked to have Dell, who's now my wife, that's Adele Mitry, M-I-T-T-R-Y, Mr. Northrop liked to have Dell go along on those dates. So Aubrey, I came back, and Aubrey thought it'd be fine if I'd go up, and I'd make fourth, we'd double date. So the first date we went horseback riding, Griffith Park, and the horse, they could all ride. Aubrey ridden all his life, and so had Dale and Izzy Northrop. But the horse, I was chicken, the horse knew it. He threw me, stepped on my foot, and broke 3 of my little toes. That's my first date. I'll never forget it, and I remind her every chance I get.
Oh, wow.
But
and so she was a California girl then?
yeah, yeah.
What did her parents do?
Well, Mr. Mitry was a contractor, they came over from Lebanon. He came over from Lebanon when he was like 20, I'm guessing like 20, 25 years old maybe, construction business, and they built a lot of well, they built a big section of March Field, and they were primarily they were in heavy construction, dams, water treatment plants, that type of construction. I never met him because he died when Dell was 13 or 14 years old.
And what year did you guys get married then?
46.
What was the date?
October 9.
Okay, let's go back to Lejeune now. The guys in your platoon, did they show you plenty of respect and all that stuff that they were supposed to do?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I mean, they acted like I was. Yeah. Oh yeah. They were right out of boot camp, and of course I'm the second lieutenant. So as far as they're concerned, I'm it. But I'm not. I'm obviously not tough like Sergeant Edmonds. Edmonds, he'd been in like 6 years. He was a China Marine, and he'd been enlisted man. He'd been around the world, and I'm on a 90-day one.
Well, that's what I mean. In these movies, they talk like the gunnery sergeants run the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, how long were you there at Lejeune then?
Like.
And what would your duty be? I mean, okay, you're a platoon leader, but what do you
training. And of course we had, and the powers that be then, I'm sure we had no idea as to how long we were going to be there, where we were going.
What makes up a platoon?
Well, Marine Corps rifle platoon is 3 squads. Each squad has 3 fire teams of 4 men each, 3 4s 12, and then you had a squad leader. So you got 13 in each rifle squad, and you got 3 of those, and you've got a platoon sergeant. So you've got about 40.
And what kind of weapons?
Back then, it was the Springfield .03, and that's the bolt action. Springfield, marvelous weapon.
That's right.
That was
a lot of Marines didn't like to change over to the M1,
that's right.
did they?
That's right. And then, of course, it came with the M1 Durand, which I liked, which I carried in combat. The officers, for some reason or other, officers and non-commissioned officers were issued their different weapon for them than the M1. But the M1, I threw mine away and picked up an M1 because it.
What, did you have a carbine before? Did they give you a carbine?
A carbine, yeah.
M1 had more penetrate. I mean, it was.
Well, it was sure. You'd always end up with sand, and you hit the beach, and you got sand, and then salt water, and the M1, that thing worked. And you want something that works.
Oh, sure, right. Did you have a pistol, a 45? Did you carry a 45?
Well, that was issued. I've forgotten exactly the timing on it, but yeah, we issued pistols first. I think maybe that. I think they had officers carry pistols. I don't know whether that was early I don't know exactly when they changed. Then they had a rising gun. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but they had a gun made by Harrington Richardson. It was the worst weapon, and that was, I don't know how much was spent on the rising gun, but it was a little handheld submachine gun with a wire stock. So take that stock down, so packed about like that, lightweight.
Germans had one that looked something like that, I think.
But this thing was no good. They had our government really must have made a terrible mistake.